Okay, I think we have everybody that registered for the event with us. Dennis unfortunately had something come up and was unable to attend this evening, so it looks like it's just going to be us. So I'll go ahead and introduce the artists. We have Dee and Donna Russell from Portsmouth, Ohio. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and let you tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we can hear a little bit about your artwork and then have a discussion.
Sounds good. We'll start first.
Hello. I'm Donna Russell. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. I've lost 3 siblings. My mother is still alive. I teach, I'm an intervention specialist, and I teach a multi-disabilities classroom at West Portsmouth. I have 3 sons, and oh well, I don't know what else to say at the moment.
About your work.
I focus my artwork through photography. I enjoy taking pictures. I look for things that others don't see or are not looking for. I'm attracted to a variety of different things in picture taking. I may focus on landscapes, nature, people, architecture, a variety. Something will spark in my mind, and I will take a myriad of photographs until I get just the right shot that I'm looking for. I hope to draw the viewer of my photographs in to look for something that connects with them. Photography for me helps me be able to process my emotions. Growing up in a household with 11 people, I was probably the quietest person, and I felt like I was always drowned out. And taking photographs helps me process through my emotions. Photos to me tell a fleeting moment in the artist's eye, and that one moment in time for whatever I'm feeling. I hope that whoever's looking at my photos will feel some sort of connection to it and be able to process some of their emotions. There is beauty and darkness, hope and sadness seen in my photographs, but there are also fun, light, and quirky pieces as well. Enjoy my photos and let them speak to you.
Thanks. And my name's Dee Russell, born and raised in Portsmouth, Southern County, about 30 miles down the river. And first off, I want to thank High University Southern for inviting us to have the show, and Dennis Stewart for curating and doing the installation. We really appreciate it. My things are, I'm more into folk art. I have been for about 30, 40 years off and on. I'm a retired custom picture framer for 30, 35 years. I worked in galleries in Portsmouth and for about a year up in Columbus. So for all these years, when I was doing these frames, which is probably like thousands of frames, I go to sleep at night and I count picture frames instead of sheep. But I would see all this artwork, and it would really take my interest and really get me interested in art. I can't paint. I'm a horrible painter, but I like to do folk art, put assemblages together, and in the wall there's different items I do. When I was very young, I would go with my grandfather, and he liked to fish on the Ohio River on both sides of Kentucky and Ohio, Portsmouth and the South Shore. And while he was getting ready to fish, I would go up and down the shores, and he'd tell me to look for items, because he was sort of a folk artist himself. He would do Walton canes, carve them, little statues, carve fish, and he would make his own fishing lures out of wood he'd find. And I'd pick up the little pieces, and things that fascinated me was the little pottery pieces and the little pieces of weathered smooth glass. I'd get the clear ones that he'd have me had me collect all the clear ones, and we'd bring them home to my grandmother, and she'd put them in clear mason jars and put them in her kitchen window. And he nicknamed them Ohio River Diamonds, and it always stuck with me. And then the pottery pieces, he would tell me, he said, just grab those and pick those up. Every one of those pottery pieces, if you're coming off a steamboat or come down the tributaries of the river, and every one of them pieces of pottery would have a story to tell. So about 20 years ago or so, I said, I'm gonna try to see if I can. I've never made a mosaic in my life. So I designed a little mosaic tabletop. And I found driftwood to do the legs and around the outside of the table. And I penciled a drawing in there of a mosaic pattern. My tables here have 200 or 300 pieces of pottery pieces in them. No two are alike. They're always different. Every piece is different. Some of the pottery, even one pottery table, which I sold about a year ago, had a date of 1812 on it. We don't know where if it came from Pittsburgh or whatever. But that's one of my main things. And then the little guitars. When I was much younger, back in the 60s, I was in a couple of garage bands, and I played drums for probably 10 or 15 years. And we traveled around this part, played a lot in Ireton, as a matter of fact. There used to be a place called Top of the Stairs down near the Brony Theater in Ireton. We played there a lot, played Columbus, Ohio State fraternity sorority parties, played in Athens at the main campus for a lot of parties because a couple of my bandmates ended up going to school there. But I could never learn how to play the guitar or anything, so I picked up the drums because I thought it was the easiest instrument for me to play. I've never made a drum set, but I've done several dozen of the folk art guitars, and they're all made by, everyone's different. They're made by found objects, everything. I've got pliers on them. I took Barbie doll hands to use for the tuning forks. Well, there's one there on the wall that's got that, and they're all different. And then I also do hiking and walking sticks. And instead of carving them, I paint them. I hand paint them with all kinds of design, and I use a lot of the jute string and a lot of my subjects where I actually drill holes and put the strings down for them. But they're functional too. So that's been my main interest. And I'm retired now. She's still working as a school teacher, but I'm retired, so I just get to relax, get down to the riverbank and root around, see what I can find. And my grandfather would always get me involved with the wood. He would tell me that, he said, you need to find these wood with these knoll prints on them. I said, knoll prints? He said, it's where a beaver's cutting down a tree. And he said, that's the kind of wood you want to use in your little artwork. I said, what difference does it make that it's done by a beaver or not? He said, beavers only picked out hardwood because they have to wear their teeth down. They don't do softwood or soft trees. They always use the hard trees. So I've got a piece over here on the wall that's got 7 sticks on it. The very end of the 2 sticks are, I call it beaver wood. So when I take the grandkids down with me to hunt the riverbanks, I always have them look for the beaver wood. And then they help me look for the pieces of glass and pottery, and always making them to wear gloves because, it's kind of dangerous sometimes, but I still do that at least one or 2 days a week. So that's my story on my artwork. And I did take, in high school, I took art classes, and it was funny because both my art teachers through my freshman and senior year, they were both football coaches, but they were good watercolor artists. And then I took a couple classes when I first started going to school. I think at the time it was early 70s, would have been Shawnee State Community College. Now it's university. I took a couple ceramic classes and a couple watercolor classes. I didn't do very much pottery, but I enjoyed the class.
I was in today and was looking at some of your pieces, and I saw the Barbie arms
Yeah.
on the one piece, which was very different. But you have some really unique pieces and a great imagination.
Thank you. And the one table, they've got one table, the one with the strings on it.
Yes.
There's almost 2,000 individual strings on that table.
Wow.
And I drilled it took me several months to do. And I've got one kind of a different story that I was working on a mosaic table. It's been a couple years ago. And I laid design out, and then I used any kind of glue will work. I use a glue called E6000. It's really good. And I glued each piece down first on the form or to lay them down. And then I let that dry for a couple of days. And then I put the grout on there. Work the grout, with the water and like smooth it out. And then you got to take a damp sponge and wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes, clean it off, then wait a couple of days to clean it off even better. And I use like triple wide steel wool pads to get all the extra grout off the pieces. And then I usually take an old paintbrush or an old toothbrush and I rub the excess grout that's covering up some of the pottery pieces off the table. Well, I noticed the grout wasn't, every time I take a brush to wipe it, it'd start to fall apart. And I can't figure out what was wrong. So I tilt the table up to do it, to brush it so I can smooth it. And all the grout fell off. And I knew I'd put the excess grout that I had from the last project I did, I put it in a plastic bag and put it in the kitchen, someplace in the corner of the floor. So I went and looked, and when Donna came home from work, I said, there's something wrong with the grout. I said, I got that plastic bag where I had the extra grout. She said, which one? I said, the one that was in the corner of the tub. She said, that's not grout, that's Seven Dust. That's for our tomato plants. So I mixed it up and it mixed up just like flour grout, and it wasn't grout. So I had to redo the whole thing over again. So that's the only time I've ever had a really bad accident.
I really enjoyed Donna's pictures of the different destinations. I used to be a travel agent, and it just made me miss it so much. All of the beaches and the mailboxes, and it was almost like walking down memory lane for me. Some of the places I had been, so I really enjoyed those.
Yeah, I think the mailbox, she put that in Virginia Beach.
Yes.
A lot of different unique things. Everywhere we've been on our travels, we see different things.
Well, I have a question for each of you, and I understand there'll be pretty different answers, but what's your process like when you're either going to create, a piece of folk art, or when you decide I'm going to go get photographs? Specifically for the sculpture art, do you go out thinking I need to find pieces so I can make this particular thing, or do you just kind of gather your found pieces and then later decide that would make a good guitar, or that would be a good table, something like that?
You will start, honey.
For me, with the photographs, I keep my camera in my car most of the time. So it just, if I see something that I want to take a picture of, I've been known to pull over to take those photographs, or if we're on trips and I see something, then I make trips back to the car to get the camera, or at other times I take the camera with me. And like I said, I'll take a ton of photos, and he'll say, why are you taking 10,000 photos of the same thing? And I'm like, because I got to be able to see which one's going to be the right shot.
And with my things, I like to do the guitars, I like to do the tables, I like to do the sticks, but it'll be just something I see. If it's maybe like, oh, well, I'll go to flea markets, I'll see something at the flea market, and I'll say, well, that's going to be different. She found an old wooden shutter that someone thrown out by the garbage can, so we grabbed it. I took it all apart and used it in there's a guitar hanging right there, the guitar with the Barbie doll hands for the little tuning knobs. Most of that guitar was made from an old shutter, and I just took the slats out and put them together. And I'll look for things that, like, one of them has an old antique picture frame, a cheese scrapers on one of them. I've got razors, locks, horseshoes, wiring, pliers, all kinds of different things, but I'm always thinking about something to make with them. And the same with the tables. I look for pieces of driftwood mostly. And the only thing that's not is like the base of the table where I actually have to put the pottery shards on. it's either Formica or solid wood. That's the only thing I ever have to purchase other than the grout. But I go to the river all the time and I'm looking for little pieces of pottery and I try to, you know, like maybe I'll do one whole table with nothing but tan pieces, and then I'll do one with a lot of different colors. And that's fun because I'm always looking for different pieces. And most of them are, you know, the majority of them are, they're found that way. I mean, I don't do anything. I don't like nip them off or cut them or break them. I just do them. They're usually smooth. I've never done anything with the glass. I've just kept the glass. I always wondered because all the different little pieces of glass you find in the river, like sometimes, like one time I found the bottom of an old Coke bottle and it was just perfect, perfect. And then I said, you know, I said, if I was if I had a kiln, I just wondered if you could take all the pieces of glass together and somehow mold them together into a bowl and fire them. And then when I kept looking it up and talking to other people online on Facebook about that, and they said that it's really hard to do because all the glass is melted at a different temperature. And when I first started being a picture framer back in the late 60s, early 70s, I worked in my grandfather's family business was the glass business. And people would always come in and say, what do you do with your old broken glass? Well, we always had to throw it away because the glass you use in commercial glass, like your tempered glass in cars, your windows, storefronts and things like that, it all has lead in it. So it's really hard to recycle. And just today, they're starting to figure out how to recycle glass to help make roads and different things like that. But that's when it piqued my interest on the glass and different things. And I've done a couple glass sculptures, but it's been years ago, and I haven't tried to do any since.
So are your Russell Glass that's in Portsmouth? Was that your business?
My cousin has a glass company on Front Street. We used to work together.
And they
Marl,
do framing too, don't they?
yes.
Okay.
Our old family, well, when we dissolved the business in the early 90s, everybody went their different direction. And we had started in 32, so we've been in business 60 some years. And we all just decided to go, everybody's going different directions. So that is Tom and his wife, Joe, and their son, Michael. And then the son has a military museum right next. They're right across the street from Murals on Front Street. And our old glass company was catty corner to the side of the river restaurant, which is the main part of town. But they also had picture framing in there too. That's where I learned my trade. I learned my trade from my uncle, Bill Phillips, who was married to my aunt. And he was an artist too, and a picture framer, and I learned to trade from him. So I've done, I mean, down through the years, I don't have my equipment anymore because I sold all my equipment when I was done, but I framed so many things. And when I was in Columbus for that year, I did all the framing for this gallery I worked at, did all the framing and artwork for Children's Nationwide Hospital. So I got to see a lot of different things. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I have another one. And again, you could both answer this. Does your mood sort of inform how you go about either, photographing or, making sculptures? Like kind of, I guess I'm more thinking in terms of photography. Like if you're really happy one day, do you tend to focus on things that are more vibrant? And maybe if you're kind of down one day, are you drawn to things that might seem a little more melancholy or something like that?
Yes. Like I have this one piece here. It was a really lighthearted day and we were in Florida, and it's the two dogs in the car. And we were at a restaurant, we were getting ready to go in, and these two dogs were sitting in this car. It was so perfect. Like they were driving the car. And so it was like, and they just kept staring straight forward, not like dogs usually turn and work at you or whatever. And so I just snapped the picture, and you can see my reflection in the car glass. And it's just a fun, quirky piece. And I just titled it "Ignore Her" because they stared straight ahead, and they were sitting in those two seats just like humans.
the window was cracked and it was not a real warm day, but they were under a tree and it was in the shade, and the window was cracked. We walked all around the car and the dog it just looked like, I don't remember what kind of dogs they were.
They almost don't look real.
We
They
started laughing.
almost look like stuffed
Yeah, we
animals.
started laughing. We
Yeah.
laughed and took a picture and other people came out and we said, you gotta see this. And everybody came over and they
Yeah,
couldn't believe it.
it's- So it's just one of those things. And then I had another piece, but it's not in the show here. But it was a car. We were in Utah and it was like in this deserted field and just like buried in like the desert out there. And we had went on vacation right after I'd lost my sister. So I was like mourning my sister's lost and stuff. And that car was, that picture was more like a melancholy thing and for me and to help me process the emotions of grieving for my sister. So, and I called it Abandoned, and I hunted and hunted for it in my stuff. We have a lot of stuff in a storage because we're in the process of moving between houses. And I was kind of upset because I couldn't find that one.
With my things, if I'm starting to think about doing a project and maybe go to the river or something, I'm usually, she's at work a lot. So I'll just go by myself if I don't have the grandkids with me, and I just get like lost. I just get lost, you know, the only thing that bothers me about going to the river is seeing trash. That's one of my pet peeves, seeing trash, you know, there's so much, you can take a bag and pick up so much, but so much stuff's dangerous to pick up, but I just get mesmerized. It's just the different things you see, and we laugh because when we go to the museum, there's so many good, we have a good museum in Portsmouth, and we love the Huntington Museum of Art. We love this gallery here, Columbus Museum of Art. And I've been to like Metropolitan Museum, I've been to Art Institute of Chicago, a lot of them, but the Butler Art Institute in Ohio is really good too. But she'll laugh at me because I'll be going and even though I love to see the arts and the frames, but I'm always looking at the frames and trying to look in behind them and everything. I'm always worried about seeing the guard ask me what I'm doing because I'm fascinated with some of the frames. Usually like the ones that are several hundred years old, they're all hand carved. You know, some of those frames those artists had to make those frames before a painting was even decided to put in them. It's like the way I think of it, but I get lost when I'm going to a flea market. I'll tell her, I said, I'll meet you here, you know, like half an hour, I'll meet you here someplace. I'm looking for a certain thing. I need 2 more things to finish this one guitar. I'll know what it is when I see it. But that's like a doorknob. Like I found the ceramic doorknob one time looking on the river, and it ended up, and it was perfect. And it was old, it was all cracked. Didn't have the backside to it, but it was a perfect doorknob. And I put it right in the middle of one of my tables that I eventually sold. And it just fit perfect right in the middle. But I just get lost in myself, and I'll work a lot on when the weather's nice, I don't like to work inside, I like to work outside. So I'll work in case it rains, I'll work on the front porch or back porch. Of course, I'll take breaks because I might be working on 2 or 3 guitars at the same time, but it might take me a year to finish them. Those ceramic or those mosaic tables takes weeks and weeks and weeks. Because and then when I get them done and partially done, I get them dry, and I either, you know, I'll eventually either paint them and antique them or stain them. But I really take my time on them.
So when you are creating your pieces, how long does it, how do you name them? I thought some of the names of the pieces were unique and just different. I just wondered how you come up with a name, or do you decide on a theme and go with that, or do you just kind of wing it?
I try to think of a title when I'm completely done. I might do 2 or 3 different titles and decide on one, like the table with the 2,000 pieces of string on. That title is Please Keep the Cat Away from the Table. And then one of my guitars is called Ode to Dusty Hill, because ZZ Top was one of my favorite bands. And after he passed, I said, I'm going to do the guitar because if you've ever been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, they've got guitars from different artists and ZZ Tops, and they're all, I mean, some of them are hand carved wood. None of mine, like I got a lot of buddies that are musicians, and a lot of musicians I played with for guitars. And I said, the one thing about mine is they can't be played.
Yeah,
So I say
tried
unusual,
to today, but it didn't work.
yeah, unusual, and I do, and I've got a bunch of small ones, like our two youngest grandchildren live in Olympia, Washington. And the boy's name Holden and the girl's name Greta. And I made both of them a guitar. And I found old antique 100-year-old child's wooden blocks. And I found the ones with their names on them and just fit perfect. And I sent them to them. They loved them. And then our son and daughter-in-law sent us pictures of the kids sitting there acting like they're playing them. And yeah, every guitar I got, they're like different. Like, I think the one with the hands on are like six-handed guitar because it's got the six hands on it.
Mhm.
So I try to think of the title and she'll have to tell you about her. And then I made a table with old license plates, Ohio license plates. And the middle, they're all old license plates. The license plates in the middle belong to my grandfather. Someone in the family is Ohio 1933, but I kept it on there. And I screwed them down so that they're not, I mean, they can be taken apart if they want to. And then the edge of the table, I found an old side view mirror from a car. So I put that on there too. And then right behind it is a guitar I made of Ohio license plate. And I named it Rock and Roll Ohio.
I like the guitar too, that had the one with the ruler and then the pencil sharpener.
Yeah, that sharpener's almost 100 years old. Our son Cody found that in an antique store. I was looking for a pencil. I said, I did this guitar out of the old rulers. Some of them rulers are really old. And I used a lot of the 12-inch rulers. And that was, I should have named it after some of my, I went to a parochial school. That's why my knuckles are big, because the nuns were really good with 12-inch rulers. They weren't throwing chalkboard erasers at your head. They were whacking your knuckles with rulers. That's a true story. So anyway, we were looking at the flea market, and I told my wife, and we had our son with us. He's 35 now, the youngest. And I said, I want to find an old-fashioned looking pencil sharpener. He said, what for? I said, I want to use it on this guitar that's made out of rulers. I didn't find the pencils I wanted, but we found one and it was like $15. I said, I don't want to pay that much. We finally found one in an antique store down in Portsmouth in the old Bunnyfield section, and it fit perfect on there. Yeah, so I put it up at the top, and then the rulers are all on the side. And she'll have to tell you about some of her names, some of your photographs.
Oh, that's a process. Some things come easy, you know, like the dogs, and the picture, the mother's watch of the eagle in the nest. That's actually a mother, and she had babies in that nest. And that picture was actually taken in Florida, the middle of Florida, in the middle of a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, we pulled the parking lot, and everybody's staring up at the
And
tree.
they're, you know, and I kept trying to get pictures of the babies popping their heads up, but I could never get them with the mom where she was trying to feed them. And we were there for probably a good 45 minutes trying to get a perfect picture, and I just couldn't get it.
I was wondering, Donna, is there like a particular time of the day that makes it easier to take a photo? Or,
It depends on where I'm at. Most of my photos, I use a Canon Rebel. Some of my pictures are from iPhone, but most of these pictures were taken with the Canon. And before that, I had a Kodak. Like, it depends on the lighting. You got to get the lighting right. A lot of times for the outside, I think the early afternoon's better. And the inside is just getting the right light where you're not getting that glare back, reflecting back into your camera lens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just wondering. I mean, I love your pictures, and there seems to be like a difference between the pictures you took earlier and the ones that are like more like you've taken now. So I don't know, what is there kind of a transition between?
Mhm. Yeah, the earlier ones were, I was just like learning the process and just, you know, things change over time. An artist continues to grow and your art changes. So that's my best answer.
Just like with my folk art, her sister, her one sister who's since passed, she would encourage me a lot. I'd take her to the river sometime too. We'd look for things, driftwood. So I encouraged her to start doing some of her own driftwood arts, which she did. She did real well. And when she found out she had terminal cancer, stage 4, she wanted to do more and more and more. So we had always entered this show in Jackson, Ohio. It's every year in October. It's called Foothills Art Festival. And it's a 3-day festival. And it's 400 or 500 pieces of artwork, maybe 150 artists. And it's really neat. You're allowed to put 4 things in. So I talked her into getting into it year before she passed. And she said she had made this boat with the cloth sails and everything like a pirate ship. I mean, have a perfect piece of, it was just perfect. And she embellished it some. And I talked her into entering, and she ends up winning first prize, and I didn't even get a ribbon in that show. And then we had never seen her so happy, even though she was in bad shape because she was in the middle of chemo radiation. And that just made it. She said, this is one of the happiest days of my life. And then she ended up selling it to her oncologist. She sold it to her cancer doctor. And we ended up with her, when she got really bad there at the end, she said they had a dog. They had a little pug,
Yeah.
little English pug. She said, I want you to take our pug because I don't think my husband and the kids are going to like it as much as what you could. So we still have to this day.
Yeah.
We have her pug. And that was fun too, to encourage her. I would take her to the riverbank to find stuff. And I'd get her looking for my pottery pieces, and I'd be looking for different wood pieces for her, and then get her. She told me one day, she said, that's what I love about this and you is you take me completely out of my pain. I can't think of anything but this. So art does that too. Art does that. Any other questions? So you got to see the show too?
Yeah, I was the first one that saw him.
Good. Did you find the book?
Yeah, I hope so. If not, when I show up tomorrow, I'll come and look. I think I signed it, and then.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how long. How much longer it is. But
I think a lot of people have stopped by to see him.
well, I'm sure some people don't sign the book too.
Yeah.
I've been up to a few. One of my friends had a show here a few years ago named Charlie Haskins. He's a pretty good artist. In fact, he's the one that did there's Robert Dafford's the main mural artist in Portsmouth that's done like 57 or 60 pieces of artwork. He's a good friend of mine. He lives in West Lafayette, Louisiana. And I've known him, Robert, for over 30 years. But this other man is named Charlie Haskins. He had a one-man show up here. He does painting and sculpture. And he's got 2 new murals that are on the west end of our city. They just built a new skate park. The concrete park's done, but the landscaping not done. But they had 2 parts of the flood wall there that were separated from the flood wall on the riverside. And he did 2 huge murals there. They're just brand new, just in the last few weeks, they're done.
Anybody else have any other questions? No? Well, I'm sorry that Dennis couldn't make it. I'm sure he would have had a lot of questions to ask you.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna get him, because we're both lay readers in our church. We go to church together. He said, I'm gonna give you a list of questions so you can study them and see if you want to add something to them, and it'll be much easier for you. So I owe him one. He owes me one. Yeah, I like Dennis. Dennis and Janet both, they're nice people. And Dennis is, I don't know if you've ever seen some of Dennis' work. He's quite an artist.
No, he hasn't. I'm hoping he's gonna,
Well, I know
Yeah.
he had I think he had a show here, but he's won some big awards down at the big show in Portsmouth is the biannual Cream of the Crop. And that's the artist within the 85-mile radius of Portsmouth. And you're allowed to enter 3 pieces, and it's a juried show. So it's hard to get in. I mean, there's years where I put in 3 things and maybe got 1. It's because it's got the kids from, OU and Marshall, Moorhead, plus Portsmouth residents, Chillicothe. It's a pretty good show. Dennis is excellent.
Well, if nobody has any other questions, I guess we can sign off, and thank you for making the trip up to Ironton to share your work and experiences with us.
yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for enjoying our show and our pieces.
Thanks again for OU Southern. So
Yeah.
my first, after I graduated from high school in 65 from Portsmouth, Notre Dame, I went to a high university Portsmouth branch.
Oh, okay.
We nicknamed it the Twig. Been an OU fan since then.
All right.
People said, where'd you go to school? And I said, the Twig. None of the new kids today know what that meant.
Well, thank you.
Thank you again.
You too.
You have-
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a great evening.
You too.